After getting married because she was pregnant, my wife had always been cold and distant. After the postpartum period, she was nowhere to be seen all day. At our son's first birthday party, her childhood sweetheart gave a big gift card. "This child looks just like me. I liked him at first sight." Everyone stared at me, the husband, for my reaction. I waved dismissively. "If he looks so much like you, he probably is yours. Just take him back and raise him." The moment I said that, my wife, Susan Sue, instantly changed her expression. Anger, embarrassment, and a hint of shame and guilt. The lively atmosphere of the first birthday party quickly died down. After a long silence, Susan Sue forced a laugh. "Robert Zhao, nickname Bob, had too much to drink. I'll take him back to rest. Please excuse him." Her childhood sweetheart, Henry Shen, chimed in to smooth things over. "What are you talking about, Bob? It's just a joke. Let's all relax and enjoy the party." I shook off Susan Sue's hand and said with a sneer, "I sincerely wish you two well. Now that the first birthday party is over, why not go make another baby tonight?" My words were too direct, and Susan Sue's sensitive glass heart shattered. "What do you mean by that, Robert Zhao, nickname Bob? Henry Shen and I only see each other once in a while, and we're perfectly innocent. There's a limit to how jealous you can be." Over the years, Susan Sue always used the same tactics whenever we had a disagreement. First, the silent treatment. When she saw that I wasn't giving her an easy out, she would start to get angry and lash out, telling me not to overthink, not to be unreasonable. But I didn't feel anything inside anymore. Speaking of which, my relationship with Susan Sue had never been smooth. She and Henry Shen were childhood sweethearts and deeply in love for 4 years. Everyone thought they were a match made in heaven. If Henry Shen hadn't been arranged by his family to go abroad during their most passionate year, Susan Sue wouldn't have agreed to my proposal. I once firmly believed that even without love, I could warm an ice cube with sincerity and slowly cultivate her affection for me over time. But I was wrong. The moment Henry Shen returned to the US, the States, all my years of effort were instantly destroyed. Although she didn't break up with me, she always maintained contact with him, claiming that there was no possibility of anything happening between them and that they would only be close friends who understood each other best. I chose to believe her. Soon after, Susan Sue became pregnant. I was overwhelmed with the joy of becoming a father and quickly prepared for the wedding, officially starting my life with Susan Sue. I thought that even if Henry Shen reappeared, there would be no chance for them. But reality slapped me hard in the face. I couldn't remember how many times I had been hurt by their blatant actions. But each time, I was met with Susan Sue's indifferent response, "You're overthinking it." She said that if she still had feelings for him, it wouldn't have been my turn. We even had a child together, and Henry Shen's parents were far away in another country. In this world, Susan Sue was the only person he was truly close to. If Susan Sue didn't care about him, no one would understand his true feelings. Such excuses were, of course, unconvincing. I argued with Susan Sue and even broke up with her. But every time, Susan Sue would use a few sweet words to make me forget the memory like a fool. I loved Susan Sue too much, to the point of being humble, to the point of offering my heart to be trampled on. The surrounding classmates were whispering. I turned to Susan Sue and said wearily, "The child still needs his biological father. Why don't you move in with him?" Susan Sue was stunned. Too, she bit her lip, seemingly acting out of spite. "Robert Zhao, nickname Bob, you're going too far. Making a scene at the first birthday party, aren't you ashamed? I want a divorce." Here it comes again. Whenever she couldn't get her way, Susan Sue would use her greatest weapon, threatening divorce. If I had heard Susan Sue say such a thing in the past, I would have already started to soften and cater to her every whim. But today, I felt incredibly calm, even with a hint of, "I knew it," mockery. I smiled faintly. "No problem. Do whatever you want. It's just a shame there's a cooling off period for divorce now," so you two can't get your wish, quickly. Susan Sue was only stunned for a second after hearing this. Then she immediately slumped into the chair, covered her face with her hands, and began to sob softly. A beautiful woman in tears is always pitiful. Immediately, classmates who were close to Susan Sue began to accuse me. It's been so long since Susan Sue and Henry Shin were together. They're just ordinary friends now. Everyone can vouch for that. Yeah, Susan Sue is already married to you. How could you make such a scene at the first birthday party because of those baseless rumors? How is Susan Sue supposed to face people in the future? You should solve your own family matters behind closed doors. It's not good for anyone to make a scene in front of everyone. Henry Shen was in the back of the crowd, looking at me with a mocking gaze. It was ridiculous. As if I was the one who was most at fault for today's events. It was me who made Susan Sue lose face in front of her classmates, so no matter what Susan Sue did, she was the pitiful victim, and I was the unforgivable sinner. I took a deep breath, pushed past the crowd pressing in front of me, and walked out of the hotel. Someone was calling my name from behind. Robert Zhao, nickname, Bob, Susan Sue is still crying. Where are you going? I smiled. Today is the child's first birthday party. Thank you all for coming. You guys have fun. I have to go to work tomorrow. The rest will be taken care of by the child's biological parents. Even after I left, there were still many people whispering behind me. They said that I was like a different person today, not at all like the gentle person I used to be. There were even girls who were close to Susan Sue who were ruthlessly mocking me. I think Robert Zhao, nickname, Bob, forgot to get his rabies shot, that's why he's biting people here. Yes, in their eyes, Susan Sue marrying me was already a huge favor for this simp. My relationship with Susan Sue was never equal, so no matter what she did, I should gratefully accept it. But it doesn't matter, I don't care anymore. Susan Sue had just been drinking, so she couldn't drive. In the past, I would have stayed by her side until the very end because I was worried about her. No matter how annoyed Susan Sue was with me, no matter what harsh words she said to drive me away. I always believed that taking care of my family was something a man should do. But what if the person you cherish doesn't want to be taken care of? I took a hard drag of my cigarettes. Susan Sue couldn't stand the smell of smoke, so I had already quit smoking for her. Now, the spicy sensation filled my lungs, making me sneeze violently. But I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. If a relationship has to be maintained by one person being subservient and submissive, it's not love, it's simping. 3. I drove back to our house. When I was still a newbie in the workplace, I almost emptied my savings to finally save up for this house. Once upon a time, I naively thought that this would be my future home. I would have children with Susan Sue in this small house and live happily ever after. How ridiculous. My phone kept ringing. I opened it and saw a message from my boss, Brother Wang. This overseas opportunity is quite rare. I strongly suggest you consider it. It's only for 5 years, and when you come back, your value will be different. I heard from the chairman that your annual salary can be increased to at least $1 million. Recently, the company's project in France needed manpower, and I was the most suitable candidate in terms of work experience and ability. But how could I bear to leave? Here, I had my beloved wife and my newborn child. At that time, I toasted Brother Wang and said frankly, Brother Wang, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I always believe that family is the most important thing to a person. If I give up my family for my own future, I will definitely regret it in the future. Until now, my views haven't changed. It's just that I didn't expect my family to be so different from what I imagined. Seeming to see that I was hesitating, Brother Wang sent another message. Choosing to improve yourself is also for the sake of your family. If your wife knows how to be understanding, she should strongly support you. Anyway, there's no harm in it for her. Understanding. How would Susan Sue know that word? I had been orbiting around her for so many years, but in her heart, I was probably no different from a dog on the street that she could beckon and dismiss at will. Just as I was lost in thought, I suddenly heard the sound of a key unlocking the door. A drunken Susan Sue was helped into the house by a female classmate, followed by a male friend pushing a stroller. The female classmate left after dropping Susan Sue off, but the male friend stopped and tried to persuade me. Susan Sue was calling your name when she was drunk. She still has you in her heart. Bob, there's nothing that can't be solved with good communication between husband and wife. Besides, Susan Sue and Henry Shen are just old history. Why do you have to make things so difficult for her? I understood his good intentions, thanked him politely, and saw him out. Susan Sue called my name? Before, such a thing was simply unbelievable to me. I hesitated for a moment and pushed open the bedroom door. Susan Sue was leaning against the pillow, her dark hair spread out, as beautiful as a fairy who had fallen into the mortal world. It's no wonder so many people still miss her. She was indeed saying something. I endured the stench of alcohol and leaned in a little closer. Susan Sue was indeed calling my name. It's just that the male friend missed the second half of the sentence. What she actually said was, Robert Chow, nickname, Bob, pour me a glass of water. Susan Sue didn't love me, this was a fact I had already understood. But reality always forced me to face it again and again. To Susan Sue, I wasn't even as good as a babysitter. I smiled and stood up. Instead of wiping her face, changing her clothes, and carefully tucking her in like I used to, I went straight back to the living room and replied to Brother Wang's message. Brother Wang, I've made up my mind. I'm willing to go. For to apply for a French visa, I needed a TCF score of at least B2. And I had never been exposed to French before. I spent the whole night contacting language institutions and even found an online spoken language tutor. The money was flowing out in large amounts, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of pain. Before, even for work, I had never been willing to spend even a penny on myself. When I first started traveling for work, I would even eat instant noodles for 3 meals a day, using the money I saved to buy local souvenir for Susan Sue. Fortunately, I woke up not too late. There's still time to start loving myself. Before I knew it, it was morning. Susan Sue came out of the bedroom. Without my attentive after-drinking service, she looked very haggard. She acted as if she didn't know what had happened last night, and sat down familiarly at the dining table, waiting for my breakfast. This was one of her most common ways of showing goodwill in our past life. She didn't need any more sweet words, she just needed to send out a signal of reconciliation, and I would obediently go over and coax her. I sat on the sofa, not even looking at her. Seeing that I didn't take the bait, she called my name in a soft voice. Bob, I drank too much yesterday, and my head is spinning now. Why didn't you give me hangover soup? I didn't even change my clothes, and I think I caught a cold. It looked like she was acting cute, but she was actually blaming me for not being considerate enough. But I'm not the fool I used to be, and I can still hear through such tactics. I said lightly. You're not feeling well, don't push yourself so hard next time. Susan Sue was stunned, her arched eyebrow furrowed tightly. Henry Shen wanted to send me back last night, but I refused. Cindy and Yuan Su took me home, right? I was looking for you, but you didn't answer my phone. The subtext was that she had already compromised, the fault was not with her, but with me. I smiled. I know, about what you said yesterday about DIV. Before I could finish, Susan Sue interrupted me. Henry Shen's grandfather passed away. He was his last relative in the States. I saw that he was too sad, so I stayed with him for a while. Oh. I didn't want to wait for her to continue reciting the prepared explanation, so I interrupted her directly. Susan Sue was stunned. She rarely showed anger at my resistance, and instead patiently explained. It was wrong of me to say that yesterday, but Henry Shen and I. It's nothing. I smiled and picked up my briefcase. If you don't want to talk about the divorce, I'll go to work first. We'll talk about the rest when I get back. Robert Chow, nickname, Bob. After speaking so softly for so long, Susan Sue finally revealed her true colors. She said angrily, "Can you talk properly? I've already explained it to you, what else do you want from me? It's ridiculous." Clearly, giving the other person what they want to hear is an explanation. Just chattering on and on here one-sidedly is like a mosquito buzzing in your ear. To take a step back, I wanted Susan Sue to do, she always knew. It's just that she gave it too late, and I don't care anymore. Just as I was about to step out the door, Susan Sue spoke. "Our company has a party, and I'm going with Henry Shen." My footsteps didn't stop at all. "Is that so? Then I hope you have fun." 5 In the past, I would never have missed such an opportunity to attend an event with Susan Sue. After all, she was a famous campus belle, and I was just an ordinary guy. I was too insecure in this relationship, so I desperately wanted to prove myself. I wanted to prove that I was the one by Susan Sue's side now. I wanted to prove that I was the one who could be good to Susan Sue, and I wanted to prove that Susan Sue didn't make a mistake by marrying me. But the facts proved that I was wrong, and ridiculously wrong. When I arrived at the company, Brother Wang briefly told me about the precautions for the overseas assignment. The most terrifying of these was that I had to get a B2 certificate within 2 months. I didn't have any language talent since I was a child. Even when I took the CT6 exam, it took me 3 times to pass. So I could only use the most primitive method, which was to copy the key words into a notepad and memorize them whenever I had time. People in the office said that I was back in high school. I smiled and nodded, but I felt a lot of emotions in my heart. How great it would be if I could really go back to high school. There wouldn't be so much love and hate, so many entanglements. If I had another chance, I would definitely stay away from Susan Sue and live my own peaceful and quiet life. I was struggling to memorize conjugations when my phone rang. Henry Shen posted a moment on social media. It was a group photo. Henry Shen was wearing a well-tailored bespoke suit, with a happy smile on his face. Susan Sue was wearing a backless evening dress, holding his arm, looking like a damsel in distress. The caption was even more maddening: "Some people can only accompany you for a while, while others can accompany you for a lifetime." Susan Sue liked it and replied with 2 heart emojis. In the past, I was always afraid that they would interact intimately without my knowledge, so I set Henry Shen and Susan Sue's social media to special attention. Even if I knew that what I saw might make my hands and feet cold and my heart race. If it were the past, no matter how important things were at hand, I would definitely rush over as soon as possible, just to squeeze between the 2 of them. But now, I just canceled their special attention and started to take out my notepad to continue memorizing words. Did it hurt? It felt like I couldn't feel anything at all. Just from the picture, these 2 handsome men and beautiful women were quite pleasing to the eye. I completely put this matter behind me and devoted myself to my crash course in French. I slept at the company that night. When I woke up, there were 2 missed calls on my phone, which was rare. It was from Susan Sue. She also sent me a message. "Where did you go? Why didn't you come home?" An hour later, she added another message. "The party was so boring. I went shopping with and before it was even halfway over." After a while, she added 2 photos of the child. "He didn't sleep well tonight. It must be because you weren't here." In the past, no matter how late Susan Sue's activities ended, I would drive to pick her up. I wouldn't feel sleepy until I watched her sleep soundly. But now, I touched my son's pink and chubby face on the screen, and couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. This was a child that I had raised bit by bit, how could I not feel sorry for him? With a soft heart, I replied to her. "I was working overtime at the company." "What's wrong?" The chat box showed typing for a long time, and Susan Sue finally replied with this sentence. "Nothing, just asking." 6 For several days in a row, I didn't go back. The training institution was very close to the company, so I slept in the company's lounge every night after finishing my evening classes. With such a hectic pace, my language skills quickly improved. Susan Sue couldn't hold back and took the initiative to call me. We haven't eaten together in a long time, and the child misses you too. This was also an opportunity to talk things out. I replied. Okay, I'll go back today. Susan Sue was silent for a while before saying to me with a bit of embarrassment, let's eat out. I can't cook. I forgot that Susan Sue didn't know anything about cooking. Every time we had guests at home, I would prepare a table full of delicious dishes by myself. She wouldn't even wash the dishes. I had only seen her cook once. That was when Henry Shin had a stomach ache, and she rushed home to make him a bowl of hot porridge. She had never used a small pot before, and she burned her finger. I felt sorry for her and applied medicine for her, and couldn't help but complain. Henry Shin too, you can buy anything you want with takeout now, why do you need someone who can't cook to come back and make it herself? Susan Sue was instantly unhappy. She pulled back her hand, her arched eyebrow raised. Henry Shin is sick. You're a healthy person, why are you arguing with him? I looked at my empty palm, and an unspeakable feeling of sadness filled my heart. How would Susan Sue know? Actually, I also had a stomach problem, and it was so serious that I had to have surgery. When I was about to enter the operating room, she was still on a business trip in another city. She only listened to my complaints for 2 sentences before perfunctorily comforting me. It's okay, I'll introduce you to a traditional herbalist when I get back. My post-operative recovery was already over, and I didn't see her so-called traditional herbalist. I sighed and shook my head, and snapped out of my thoughts. As I walked out of the company gate, I saw Susan Sue's car. It was as if the sun had risen in the west, she was picking me up. Seeing me come down, a look of joy flashed in her eyes. Before she could speak, I politely nodded and got into the passenger seat without saying a word. Susan Sue's expression was a little awkward. Bob, don't you want to say anything to me? That's right, as long as I was with Susan Sue before, I would always try my best to find topics to talk about, so that the atmosphere wouldn't be so awkward. But now, I just closed my eyes and rested, and Susan Sue was a little restless. I didn't want to argue with her, so I replied lightly. Didn't you say the child missed me? Why didn't you bring him? Susan Sue bit her lip, and after a long while, she replied. If there wasn't a child, would you not have come back for this meal? I just sighed. The Susan Sue who always hoped that I would work overtime and travel for business seemed to be gone forever. Soon, we arrived at the place that Susan Sue had chosen, which was a barbecue restaurant. I really liked the skewers here, but Susan Sue always complained that it was greasy and unhygienic, and she rarely wanted to come here with me. I don't know how she changed her mind today. I ordered these in advance. They're all your favorites, and I added spice according to your taste. Susan Sue said, sitting down a little uncomfortably. Smelling the familiar fragrance, my stomach did start to rumble. No matter what big things were happening, eating was the most important thing. However, just as I was about to dig in, Susan Sue's phone rang. My eyesight was good, and I could easily see the name on it. Henry Shin. 7 Susan Sue looked at me, awkwardly reaching out to cover the phone. I pretended not to see it and continued to chew on the plum meat in my hand. The phone only vibrated for a while before it rang again. As if it wouldn't stop until she answered. Susan Sue was quite annoyed. She looked like she wanted to hang up directly, but her finger didn't move up. It wasn't like she hadn't answered Henry Shin's phone in front of me before, I don't know what she was being reserved about now. While she was hesitating, I grabbed another chicken wing. Answer it. I said lightly. He keeps calling you. It must be urgent. As soon as the phone was connected, Henry Shin's impatient voice came over. Wan, why are you answering my phone now? I have something important to tell you, come to my house. Susan Sue frowned. Can't you say what it is over the phone? Do we have to meet? Perhaps for the first few decades of her life, Susan Sue had never said such a thing to Henry Shin. Henry Shin heard the difference in her tone and was stunned. Wan, what's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? My mom is back from overseas. She hasn't seen you for so many years and has been missing you. Susan Sue didn't say anything. But I could read her expression. She was wavering. I smiled. Since the old lady is back, go see her. Susan Sue remained noncommittal, hurriedly hung up the phone, and then explained to me with a guilty expression. Auntie has taken care of me since I was a child. My parents were busy with work and couldn't take care of me, so Auntie Shin helped me. To me, she's like my own mother. I nodded. I know, so go quickly. I don't know how many times I've heard the same words from Susan Sue. Henry Shin was like her own brother, and Henry Shin's mother was like her own mother. You might as well just say that they are a family. Susan Sue pursed her lips, looking uneasy. I'm sorry, Bob, I was the one who asked you to come out. I smiled faintly. There's nothing to be sorry about, I understand. Susan Sue resisted with her words, but her body was very honest. As soon as she hung up the phone, she had already put on her coat. Seeing that I was still eating by myself, she seemed to feel a little sorry. Come home for dinner tomorrow, okay? I was stunned. Sure, I'll go home early to cook. This answer seemed to make Susan Sue a little sad. She turned around without saying a word and left. I chewed on the cold skewers and took out my vocabulary book. I knew why Susan Sue was sad. In the past, as long as Susan Sue made a request like this in a half-coquettish way, I would always be overly enthusiastic. I would be afraid that I would ask her what she wanted to eat and what time she would be home, and try to let her taste the best first bite. My colleagues always laughed at me, saying that I was like Susan Sue's little babysitter. I was very happy with this title for a while, and just said that they were single dogs who didn't understand romance. It's really unbearable to look back on the past. I used to like this barbecue very much because its second floor faces the river. On certain special holidays, it's the best place to watch the fireworks. Susan Sue always said that I didn't understand romance, and that I actually brought her to eat this unhealthy thing on our anniversary. So she always said that she was sleepy and left early. Clearly, as long as she waited 10 more minutes, fireworks would bloom in the sky. I picked up a piece of this restaurant's signature dish. It was already soaked in oil, and it didn't taste good anymore. I went home early and cooked a table full of dishes. The housekeeper had a day off, and the child was sleeping soundly in the crib alone. Leaving aside the anger that had overwhelmed me that day, he actually didn't look like Henry Shin at all. I also believed that Susan Sue really hadn't committed any substantial betrayal. But was that enough? After so many years, I was almost unrecognizable. Whenever I heard news about Susan Sue and Henry Shin, I would become neurotic and always investigate until I found out the truth. In fact, I hated myself like that. But I had no choice. My emotional switch seemed to be only tied to Susan Sue, so I would be involuntarily moved by her every move. It wasn't until I really cut off all my love for Susan Sue that I finally broke free from this puppet-like state. Even after playing with my son until the evening, Susan Sue didn't show up. My heart was still calm, without any waves. The next morning, I threw away the spoiled food, waited for the housekeeper to come to work, and went straight to the company. The meeting lasted all morning, and everyone was so hungry that their stomachs were stuck to their backs. Seeing the team members looking listless, I thoughtfully offered to treat them to a meal. Cheers instantly filled the office. They crowded around me, squeezing me out of the company gate like I was some kind of superstar. But I didn't expect to see an uninvited guest at the door. Susan Sue was waiting for me. Seeing the men and women around me, a hurt expression flashed across her face. Bob, I've called you several times, but you didn't answer any of them. Oh, I did have a few missed calls on my phone. But I was too eager to eat and forgot. The team members tactfully left first, leaving only Susan Sue and me. She spoke first. I'm sorry, Aunt Shin suddenly felt unwell yesterday. I was taking care of her at the hospital, and my phone died. I didn't get a chance to tell you. I responded with an, oh. How is she? Is it serious? It was a sudden spike in blood sugar. The doctor said she'll be fine as long as she rests for a couple of days. I nodded. That's good. Another moment of silence passed between us. After a long while, Susan Sue's soft voice came over. I just heard people from your company say that you're going to France. I didn't deny it. Susan Sue pressed further. Is it already decided? When are you leaving? I said quietly, next month. Susan Sue lowered her head, looking very aggrieved. You're going for 5 years, and you didn't even tell me in advance. I looked at the top of her head and suddenly felt incredibly tired. Susan Sue always made her own decisions and presented them to me as announcements. I don't know why she's so sad now. I sighed. Is there anything else you want to say? If not, I'm leaving. The team members are still waiting for me, and after dinner today, I still need to cram for the exam. My time is precious, and I really don't have time to indulge Susan Sue's sentimental mood. Susan Sue's eyes seemed to be red. Robert Zhao, Bob, do you even remember what day it is today? I almost blurted out that it was Thursday, the day for the group meeting. It's my birthday. You never used to forget. No wonder Susan Sue insisted that I go home yesterday. Susan Sue was right. I always remembered her birthday. Every year, I would start preparing 2 months in advance. Racking my brains, just to prepare some clever gifts for her. But Susan Sue never cherished the gifts I gave her. More than once, I saw her casually stuffing my gifts in a drawer, not even bothering to open the packaging. And more than once, I heard her mocking my taste with her friends. What kind of things does Robert Zhao, Bob, give? Sometimes I'm really embarrassed to take them out. Then, there would be a chorus of laughter. Whenever that happened, I could only awkwardly smile along. I was already at a loss. It was also on her birthday that I carefully hid a ring in the cake, preparing to propose to her. But Susan Sue didn't come home all night. It wasn't until dawn the next day that she stumbled back home. The makeup on her face was smeared with tears. I asked her what happened, but she wouldn't say. When I asked a few more questions, she pointed at the door and told me to get out. But later, I still heard the whole story from a friend. That day, Henry Shin returned to the States. Bob, you wouldn't really forget my birthday, you're just sulking, right? Susan Sue looked at me, her face anxious. As long as you're not angry, I'll apologize however you want. It's okay if you go to France, I can wait 5 years, 10 years. If only you knew this earlier. But looking at Susan Sue's pleading face, my heart still softened. After all, she was the girl I had loved wholeheartedly for so long. Since it's all going to end, there's no harm in humoring her for her birthday. Thinking of this, I smiled at her. How could I? I already said, I'm really not angry. Birthdays only come once a year. I'll take the day off and go back to celebrate with you. Seeing that I seemed to have returned to my old self, a hint of a smile appeared on Susan Sue's face. She naturally took my arm. I want to eat stir-fried tripe and braised prawns. When you go to France, you have to tell me the recipe. Even the chefs in 5-star hotels can't make prawns as delicious as you do. I smiled and nodded. Not just the recipe. Susan Sue, I'll leave you with everything related to you. We'll part ways amicably, with some dignity. That afternoon, I seemed to have briefly returned to my previous state. Not only was I obedient to Susan Sue, but I would also occasionally crack a few jokes, making her face full of smiles. Unfortunately, as soon as we got home, Susan Sue's smile froze. Henry Shen was standing at the door. He was smiling and about to take the shopping bags from Susan Sue's hands. I've been abroad for the past few years and always missed your birthday. Today, my mom ordered me to make it up to you. Do you like this big surprise? Susan Sue coldly turned aside, avoiding Henry Shen's attentiveness. No thanks, you can go back. Being rejected so mercilessly, a trace of a crack seemed to appear on Henry Shin's perfect expression. He looked at me, who had no reaction, and then at Susan Sue. Only then did he reveal a look of realization. Are you afraid that old Xiao will misunderstand? How could that be? Aren't we just ordinary family friends now? Old Xiao, you're too jealous. Are you still angry about the joke I made last time? Haha. His laughter was cut off by Susan Sue before it could fully come out. Susan Sue put down the shopping bags and pushed him hard. Can you get out of my house? Get out now. After the outburst, Susan Sue left the dumbfounded Henry Shen and slammed the door shut behind her. Having seen such scenes before, I could only shake my head and squeeze past him into the house. As soon as the door closed, Susan Sue threw herself into my arms. She was afraid that I would take away the life she enjoyed, the life where she was treated like a princess. Bob, I really didn't know he would come, I didn't invite him. Please don't be angry with me. I stroked her hair and smiled gently. I believe you. It's your birthday today, the birthday star can't cry. Just like every birthday before. I made a table full of Susan Sue's favorite dishes, ordered her favorite cake from that bakery, bought sparklers, and took her downstairs to play with them. Susan Sue shrieked and spun around, happy as a child. Returning home in high spirits, she suddenly hugged me. Susan Sue's voice was a little choked up. Bob, I was so happy today. Until just now, I was thinking how great you were today. But I just remembered that you used to be this great every day. I was so thoughtless, hurting your heart and being so self-righteous. Forgive me, okay? I won't have any more contact with Henry Shen. I won't care about his affairs anymore. I won't be so capricious, going out all night without coming home, and I won't leave our son for you to take care of alone anymore. Can we go back to the way we were before, okay? I didn't know how to tell Susan Sue. We couldn't go back to the way we were before. My love for her had long been dissipated by her emotional extravagance over the past few years. After a long silence, I patted her hand. I promise you. Susan Sue burst into tears of joy. She didn't know that today was the first time I had lied to her. Watching Susan Sue and the child sleeping peacefully, I closed the bedroom door. Actually, I came back to pack my luggage. I lied to Susan Sue. The plane ticket to France is for tomorrow. I left a letter and a divorce agreement. And resolutely left this house that once held all my feelings. Sitting in the airport, I felt how small humans are. The resentment and jealousy that had tormented me for half my life seemed to fade away with the plane's contrail. When I went through security, I heard an urgent call from behind. Bob, Robert Zhao, Bob. After confirming that I wasn't hearing things, I turned around. It was Susan Sue, holding the child. She had obviously rushed over, her hair disheveled and her clothes mismatched. Susan Sue's eyes were red and she was emotionally agitated. I don't want a divorce, please don't go, I can wait for you. I know I was wrong, I'll change, please don't leave me. The child in her arms also cried in response. Susan Sue sobbed uncontrollably. The shape of her mouth clearly formed 3 words. Please, please, please. Brother Wang brother, came up to me. There's still time to board, do you want to go and deal with it? I shook my head decisively. I just said to her. Susan Sue, we're over. It's okay if you don't sign the divorce agreement. After 1 year of separation, I can still file for divorce. My words were still so calm. But Susan Sue understood me. She knew that there was no possibility for us anymore.